Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this urgent press conference with the Texas Poor People's Campaign. My name is Danita Jones. I am the Tri-Chair for the Texas PPC. I come to you today as not only the Tri-Chair for our campaign, but also as a parent, as a mother. The tragedy that has unfolded in Texas at Uvalde is heartbreaking and gut-wrenching. And we are supposed to be able to take thoughts and prayers from our elected officials and be okay with that. As a parent, I am not okay with that. I am not okay because just one day later, a young man was arrested at my daughter's high school. And in his car, they found 2 assault rifles. So this is not okay with me. And while we sit and our elected officials do nothing, and they leave our children vulnerable to gun violence, our highest elected officials, Governor Abbott, Senator Cruz, Senator Cornyn, and Ken Paxton will be opening speakers at the NRA convention on Friday. The most disrespectful and blatant show in no regards and no remorse over the death of these students and these teachers in Uvalde. This press conference is to call them out, to let them know they are on notice. You will hear today from students and teachers affected by this. You will get to hear them in their own words, tell you how terrified they are, what this has done to them as they break for the summer. But we want to start first, as we do often, in prayer. And then we will hear from one of our co-chairs, Reverend Barber, students, our partner, teachers, and Reverend Liz will close us out. But while you're here and you're listening to us and you're listening to them, do more than listen. It is now time for action. We cannot be sitting on the sidelines anymore. This is an election season in Texas. Our voice is our vote. And it's time that we voice our opinions and our needs and our wants on how we want Texas to lead. So I will turn it over to Pastor Michael Rose of Cornerstone Baptist Church.
Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather again today at this holy appointed hour to seek your presence and ask your blessings upon the lives of your people, especially those in the city of Uvalde who have been so adversely affected by the senseless rage, hatred, and death that has invaded their community. Lord, we humbly and graciously ask that you allow your love, grace, and mercy to break through all the chaos and evil at work within our state, nation, and world. We ask that you would break through and bring about healing to the hurting and brokenhearted. Break through and bring compassion into the hearts and minds of those who deceive themselves into believing everything is okay and that no change in policy and direction is needed. Bless us, dear God, as a state, nation, and a world to recognize that when any of us suffer, we all suffer, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Bless us as a state, nation, and world to realize that you do not take pleasure in suffering, but take delight in those who reverence you and desire to embrace your undying love. Lord, please create within us, regardless of race, gender, or political affiliation, a place for your unfailing love to dwell richly within our lives. We need you, dear God, for only in you can we receive the hope, peace, love, and deliverance needed for our state, nation, and world. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Rhodes.
You're welcome.
And now, Reverend Barber.
Danita, I'm on this mute on this volume, excuse me, on audio. But you have already said the most profound thing that I wish, and we got to find a way for what you said to be said to the nation and to every politician. Cannot be all right. Cannot be all right. I want to also say that 3 weeks ago, before either of these shootings that occurred, I'd asked Reverend Casimir and Adam Barnes if they would organize on June 3rd, 4th, and 5th on behalf of the campaign a mass call for pulpits, temples, and mosques and synagogues to all that would, with thousands of them, if they would open up on that weekend and preach and teach public sermons from the subject, America must decide that death is no longer an option. At that time, we did not know that this would be happening, but the Spirit knew. And we must have a massive moral outcry. Somebody's got a lot of static from someone who's on. I don't know if there's a way to. Thank you. I also want to say, did you say the pastor that was just praying is from that area? Is that?
Pastor Rhodes, he's from Houston.
Austin.
Okay.
Austin.
You're from Austin. I want to say to the Texas PPC, and we've been in touch with the people in Buffalo, if in fact there is a family that would be able to speak at June 18th, force the nation to hear their pain, their tears, and that they would join us in making a demand on all of this weaponry and violence. Makes no sense. You even can allow someone to buy an assault rifle because the very word tells you what it's for. It's to assault human beings. But if there's a family from that area, pastor from that area who's had to do the funeral, I want to ask them to come to June 18th and be a part of the chorus of lamenting and tears that we must have to force change in this country. And I want to also say, if there's any way prior to then, that we could actually come to Texas, to that area, in the community, to begin to put more focus on. Because, as the media are on, there's a scripture that says in Jeremiah 9, "Oh, that my head were a fountain of tears, that I might cry on behalf of Israel." The prophet Jeremiah knew that there were times that everybody needed to be crying. In fact, later on it says, "Call for the wailing women." Things were so bad, but Jeremiah said, God said, I need the folk who are skilled and crying to the point that it makes an issue undeniable, makes it so nobody can rest until it's dealt with. That's what we need to happen in this culture right now. We must refuse, like Danita said, to be comforted. This isn't all right. This ain't all right. It can't be all right. Did you hear her say the very next day or so, someone was arrested at her child's school with 2
Recording in
assault
progress.
weapons? We as a nation have to connect our tears and pain, not just in a moment. But we've got to connect all of these tears into a mass political, moral, electoral movement that creates a flood of transformation. We must make sure that these babies and others did not die in vain. Just like Emmett Till's mama made the nation look at what racism did to her child. I'm even praying, I can't step in the shoes of the family, but that if there is a family that God so allows of a baby, they would leave the casket open and call the media in and say to every politician, this is what your inaction looks like. This is what you're not doing anything about. Because we cannot do platitudes faced with the ugliness of their inaction. We need a voice that cries out all over. It says, we will not be comforted. The tears of our pain from all this death must be united into a remnant of lamenting and repentance that invokes the assistance and makes possible the kind of change, that kind of tears that we say we need everybody coming together. The same extremism that refuses to expand and protect voting rights and causes people to cry because they see the turning back of what we thought we had won years ago. It is the same that refuses to pass common sense gun laws and block assault rifles. The same extremism that does that refuses healthcare and allows people to die and keeps poverty alive. It causes people to die even before COVID at 700 people a day. It's the same extremism that says that a rapist ought to have more rights over a woman's body to choose than that woman. The same racism that keeps climate injustice alive, that destroys people. And if we know this, that the same extremism creates all of these situations that make people weep and cry, then we must unite our tears, refuse to be comforted, refuse to be divided until change comes. And as hard as these moments are, what we know as I close that throughout history, great weeping and great mourning often bring about moments that force monumental change that isn't even possible until the heart of the nation is broken and a movement of transformation grows out of the brokenness. I believe still, as hard and as hurtful, and yes, as hellish as this is, and what is more hellish than even the shooter killing people is the inaction of the politicians, those that will continue to justify the guns, because it is not just who pulled the trigger, but what pulled the trigger, and what pulled those triggers again and again is the inaction and the refusing. And the group of people in this country who love guns more than they love our children, and who are more committed to violence than they are committed to nonviolence, and who would have such a fetish with the National Rifle Association that they would be more interested in its agenda than the agenda of protecting our children. That is hellish. But the greatest danger right now is for people to cry for a moment and then put the tears away, or to cry about this and not connect it to the other tears cried by those who've been victims of all this regressive and extreme policies that exist today. If we ever needed a moral fusion movement, it's right now. We need a mass for people's low-wage workers assembly and march on Washington to the polls that says that the war economy and the militarism of our communities is a part of the interlocking evils that's doing so much deadly damage to so many people. We need a nonviolent movement that collectively challenges all of this violence with a mighty and a full long-term chorus of tears and repentance. And we need that repentance to happen and those tears to happen. And we need to stop believing when people say, well, the terms are going to be the same. If these people are going to get elected. If we could unite our tears into this massive movement, if we could say the most profound thing that I have heard said over these last 2 days, that Danita said in just a few words, I ain't all right. This ain't right. All right. We are not all right. And we must continue to not be all right until things are set right. We must be a fountain of tears, but those tears must become a flood of transformation and movement building. And I pray that we will do that. I know that the Texas Poor People's Campaign, the New York Poor People's Campaign, and all of us around the country, we will continue to do that, because this extremism will not make us weep like this, and then our tears be wasted, and the lives of our children be taken, and nothing happens. Like Rosa Parks, when she saw the death of Emmett Till, she said, if you kill Emmett, then I'm tearing your system of injustice and Jim Crow down. And so when you shoot our babies and kill our other family members, in this moment, right now, let's unite these tears and tear this system of injustice down with our nonviolent action, power, votes, voices, screams, tears, wailing. Let us refuse to be comforted, because we are not all right.
Reverend Barber, thank you for your words of wisdom as always, for the grounding that you give us all. I want to move on in our program, and we will hear from the League of Women Voters partner, Jessica Lucas, and then we will begin to hear from our students. Jessica.
Thank you, Reverend Barbara, and thank you, Danita. It's such a profound message. As a League member, I'm speaking officially for the League of Women Voters Dallas, that's authorized by our president to advocate on issues in agreement with League positions. The League of Women Voter Dallas sends our heartfelt condolences to the victims and families of this avoidable tragedy at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. It is another senseless act that could have been prevented. It's another media blitz of thoughts and prayers. Littleton, Newton, Parkland, Blacksburg, Orlando, Las Vegas, and most recently, Buffalo and Uvalde have been the scenes of mass shootings over the years, just to name a few. One has to question, when will it be enough for our elected officials to come together and pass policy that prevents tragedies like this? When will a child, a person's life outweigh anyone's right to bear arms? The Texas legislature won't be in session again until January, so we must urge Congress to act now. The House of Representatives has already passed H.R. 8, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act, and the Senate must act now. Tell your senators to support the Bipartisan Background Checks Act and save Americans from the terror of gun violence. League of Women Voters Dallas has put out a call to action. This is the time for more than thoughts and prayers. We are here to help those looking on how to reach your elected officials. You can go to our website and go to the elected official webpage. You can also go to the League Texas Take Action page, which will automatically bring up most of your elected officials. As a parent and educator, I call on those listening to use your powerful voice and call your elected officials. Let them know we need sensible gun laws. We need mental and emotional resources and funding in our schools and our communities. Lockdown drills, metal detectors, schools that look like prisons are not the answer. We need common sense gun safety laws. We need fewer guns in our streets, not more. We need fewer guns in the hands of young people, not more. We need to regulate ghost gun kits and hold accountable those who manufacture and sell them illegally. We need our lives to mean more than our right to bear arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I want you all to pay attention to what she said. Our lives need to matter more than your right to bear arms. Our children's lives need to matter more. If you're pro-life, it's time for you to speak up. And now we will hear from our students. We'll start with Isabella Lucas, and then we will go to Fernando Perez. Isabella?
Hi, my name is Isabel Lucas, and I first want to reach out my condolences for the 21 people who got murdered. And I want to bless all their hearts and bless all their families and all those people who have to deal with all of that happened 2 days ago. And I want to start on how when I was little, I thought it was very fun to go to school. I enjoyed going to school. I loved everything about school. I loved hanging out with friends. I loved showing my hard work to teachers. And I always thought school was about having experiences with learning and learning from mistakes and being your biggest best of yourself. But I've learned over the years that I appreciate all the teachers who were very adamant on our safety, and that brings to my attention on how they were so adamant on safety. And when I got older and I understood what people had in intentions and what these school shootings were, and when I had drills like this, I was so surprised that someone would want to do something like this. And I felt so concerned every single day I went to school, wondering if it was going to be a good day or if I was going to be screaming with terror and locked in the classroom. And every day I'm just concerned. Sorry.
Don't apologize. We need it. Tape it and send it everywhere.
And to see so many kids, and to see so many parents, and to see all these 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds and kids younger than I am, to see so many people dead like this, and to see how many school shootings there are in the United States. And I wish I could be more comfortable with going to school, knowing that these things didn't happen so frequently. And I really did wish that guns and stuff wasn't a thing, and I get that sometimes they are for self-defense, but it's just so scary knowing that someone can come to my school and just kill a bunch of people and be aimed to kill every single person. And I want to thank all my teachers for being with me and being very adamant on my safety and having all these drills. But I just wish that we wouldn't have to have so many drills. We wouldn't have to be required to have drills every single month, to have so many safety requirements every single month. And it's just so disgusting to see that someone like this man who had evil intentions like this, who killed 21 people, who killed 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds and killed 2 teachers. I have no words, but I just wish that there was some way to control this and there wasn't so many people who thought this way. And I wish, that we had better resources. And I just want to wish everyone a blessed day and to be happy that the rest of those kids survived. And I'm sorry that they have to deal with all that trauma. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. I've known you now for 4 years, and you get stronger and stronger every time I see you speak. And I want to thank you. And like Reverend Barbara said, don't hold back your tears. They're important. They're important. And now we will hear from Jack Golub and his students. They're with him, Fernando and Via. If you all will come on camera and share your statement. Be who you are. It's okay. This is hard on all of us.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Fernando Perez. And something I really want to mention about what happened at Uvalde is that it's really saddening. And something I would like to say is that ever since Governor Abbott signed a law that allows anyone to carry a gun in public, there have been many shootings around my city and others. Now these killers are starting to go into schools. What makes you think that it couldn't happen to any of other kids' in schools, that a person might go in and threaten everybody with a gun? It's frightening because it could happen here in our school, in my school, and it really is a very saddening thing to think about, of how now not even walking down the street could be safe for one of us, and get with the fear of getting shot, and how some places like school it's really for some kids the only place where they'll feel safe, and for that to be taken away by somebody that's not thinking straight and is wanting to do some harm to other people is saddening. And I'm sorry for the losses of everybody who's in the Zoom call, and for the people who aren't in the Zoom call. I'm really sorry, and I hope that y'all have a good rest of y'all's day. And I'm here with y'all, remembering those kids and 2 teachers, the 19 kids that got shot and the 2 teachers that died. Then they'll always be in our memory and in our heart.
Thank you, Fernando.
Hi, my name is Novia, and I just wanted to say that I am sad and I'm scared. I really am sad about what happened and about and their families. I'm scared that something like this could happen at any school, and that we know that we're not even safe in a school. At some point, we're not even safe anywhere. You need to hear our voices and our opinions, because this issue matters to us. We want to have a better future. Soon these are going to be our world, and we will have to worry about a lot of things. These choices adults make don't affect them only, they affect our future. I have to fix their problems, we have to. The problems, you leave us. Your petitions and voters have decided that you have to be 21 to drink, but it's okay to hold a gun at 18. It's harder to drink than to kill with a gun. That is a problem. If we seriously want to help and do better, we can. If we actually try, we can stop this violence. We can make this stuff never happen again. A lot of people are hurt. Little kids are dying. These kids have a whole future in front of them. They were probably excited for summer. Instead, they got traumatized or they died. It's not fair. No one should be able to take someone else's life. Those are like my words. Just wanted to say that what happened was really unfair and no one should ever go through that. Thanks for having me.
These are the words of our children. These are their feelings. These are their feelings. Understand that. These are our children that are begging us, the adults who should know better, to help them.
Hi, I'm Angel, and
Jesus.
honestly, I used to think that life was all fun and games, at least when you're a kid. I honestly don't think that anymore. I want to end these laws, these open carry access gun laws that can end up killing so many people, so many innocent people. That's what happened in elementary school. These laws ended the lives of 19 children, 2 teachers, and an elderly woman. They had their lives taken by someone who, for whatever reason, has no regard for life, was able to purchase a gun and walk into a school and open fire. How is this even possible? Could have been my school. Could have been my cousins or family members that were killed. It's not the first time of a school shooting, but it better be the last. To Governor Abbott and Senator Cruz, what would you do if this was your kids that were shot and killed? Your wife who was shot at a grocery store? What will it take for you? What will it take for you to see and feel what parents are feeling? Can you feel the pain and sense the fear of parents? Can you feel anything at all? Show us.
Danita. Danita, I want to ask
I
you a
think
question.
we get to hear from Nanette next. So Nanette, please.
Okay.
May I ask Danita a question?
Yes.
Danita, I want to ask a question. Because I'm in a car and I'm not going to be at number one. If the parents of those students would let them speak on June 18th in DC. And if that's possible, if they could become.
Actually, I think Nanette is having an issue with the Zoom. Could we need to move on and then come back to her when she's able to get on?
Yeah.
I want to ask that they need, and it dawned on me just then, the first young lady, I believe, was Isabella. The young man was named Angel. The word name Isabella means God is my oath. Angel means messenger. If you put those two together, it literally means I make an oath to God that I will be the messenger of change. I make an oath to God that I will be the messengers of change. And their voice, and exactly the way they said it, is what needs to be heard again and again and again and again. So Danita, I hope that the Texas PPC will pay for it, their families and whatever. But I would want to ask them to join folk from Buffalo and be among the impacted speakers that speak to the nation and to the world and to the Congress on June 18th. I just want to say that it's touched me deeply, and we need, but more than importantly, you said it. If we can't listen to our children, then what the hell is wrong with us? And we got to make sure that they are heard.
Thank you. Thank you. If you're not speaking, please be respectful and be on mute. We're going to continue with our students, and then we're going to go to our teachers who are also impacted by this. Nanette?
I'm here.
Go ahead, darling.
What I would like to say about the shooting is that it's really sad for me to hear about that it could have been one of us or it could have been any other school. And not that I don't feel safe at our school anymore, but I don't know, our school is very secure, but you don't know, anything can happen in a split second. And I'm sorry to those parents who have lost their kids. And I know they're going through a lot right now. To hear that their kids are just gone like that without even saying goodbye to them. And I'm sorry. And what I think could like solve the problem about like these shootings is that like the government can change a lot about like just anybody having a gun, and like saying that only people with experience should have guns, like police and people like that. And only people who are like, you can trust with guns, not just anybody.
Thank you, Nanette. Thank you. And to start off and to, it's a lot. This is a lot. Next up, we'll hear from our teachers, Judy Moore, Diana Rodriguez, Jack Gola.
Hi, everyone. Turn my volumes up. Peace to all of you, first of all. I am a teacher, and when I come to work in the morning, I have an objective on my mind. And whatever my lesson is for that day, that is my goal, that is my objective. The other thing that I'm thinking about is how soon can I get back home to my dogs? But now I found myself the other day after the shooting asking myself, am I going to be isolated in my house again, like as we were during the pandemic, because of fear of going anywhere, to the store, to church, to school? And my school is where I work. And so I am a minority. I am already a target. Can I go anywhere and feel safe? No, not necessarily. I can't. And this type of violence is not unprecedented. Yet nothing has changed. Instead, the NRA and lobbyists have gotten stronger and have gotten wiser. And those who are in the decision-making seats are not affected because either they don't have kids who are in grade school or are too naive to think that it can't happen to them. So to Governor Abbott and Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn, how long or how many lives have to be lost until you take a stand or on issues that are favorable for your state's residents? You are pushing back against these are your people. Or do we have to wait until someone shoots up your house or comes and shoots up your place of work before something is done about it? Is your blood any different from ours that others' lives don't seem it doesn't seem to be worth protecting or worth enacting policy to protect? I'm reading a book right now, and one of the stories in the book, a man is crying out to his master because he's going through some stuff, right? He is experiencing hardships, and he's like, how long will I have to suffer? How long will I have to endure? How long are you going to hide your face from me? And he thought he was doing everything right, yet it still seemed like he was on a losing track. And that's kind of how we feel in this situation. We are making noise, we're talking about it, and we're pushing for gun violence to have its parameters, yet nothing has changed, nothing has happened. How many more lives will it cost us before we, and when I say we, I'm talking about PPC, I'm talking about schools, teachers, community leaders, how many more lives will it cost us before we as people realize just how much power we have? I'm reminded of another story in this book where some people marched around the city for 7 days. They marched around the city for 7 days, and on the 7th day, they marched around 7 times. And on that 7th time, they made a whole bunch of noise and walls came down. And I have been told that to get policies to change, it's going to take time. Nothing happens overnight. But if the NRA can put in a policy to say, okay, these types of rifles are not allowed at our conference, why can't we at a desk pull out a paper, somebody draft up the policy, put a pen in their hand and sign it and say, these are the ramifications around bearing arms. It is just that easy. We can't sit up here and say that it's not. I don't think we realize just how much power that we have. If we rally all of the people in the communities and schools directly affected by mass shootings, stage a nationwide protest, and refuse our services, we will not work until we feel that parameters are put in place where we feel safe to work, safe to go to the grocery store, safe to go to church. Then we can change something. Or if we stop systems the way COVID did, somebody's got to hear us. If we shut down the way COVID shut down our world, then somebody's going to have to say something. And we won't lift the pen until a policy is in order. How far are we willing to go to get the change that we want to see? And I challenge you to ask yourself that question. And then my last reference to this book is that there was a man who was sent to go tell the king to let the people go. And the king kept lying and saying that he was going to let the people go. And so the man was going back and forth. Some of these stories might sound familiar to a lot of y'all. And he kept telling the guy, okay, I'll let him go if you do this. But the king kept lying until one day the man told the king, if you don't let the people go, this is what's going to happen. And so the king lied again until he got cursed with something that he couldn't bear. Then he released the people and then sent them on their way. And even still, he went running after them because he tried to get payback. But the people end up dying. And I'm saying to us, we have been going back and forth, and still nothing has changed. All these mass shootings that have happened, and now I'll finish here. All these mass shootings that have happened and still no policy has changed. People are still able to go in and shoot up a store. It's 2022 and we are still doing that. I am challenging us as the people who want to see the change, that we're going to go to the powers that be this time. And if they don't give us what we want, then we have to do something. We cannot keep going forward without an action happening, without getting something in return. So to all of us, we are hurting, we are in pain. There is a level of fear, even for myself and my siblings who are also in school, my coworkers. We have to take a stand and not move. We cannot move this time. We go to DC and we march, we don't move until they say something, until they do something. So, and we have to ride on a unity ticket. We all have to go in on this, and we have to go in 110% or else nothing will change. Peace to all of you.
Thank you, Judy. Next, we'll hear from Ms. Rodriguez. Diana.
Hi, everyone. Every time I hear people talk about mass shootings or specifically school shootings, a lot of the words that I keep hearing is prayer and how this is unimaginable and unprecedented. And I think that that's words that we keep using to describe very preventable and foreseeable occurrences. This shooting was not unimaginable. The only thing unimaginable is us expecting something to change while people in power do nothing. What's really unimaginable is that my first year teaching, when we had our first drill, I had to figure out in the classroom which was the best hiding spots. And then like this worry came over me where I was like, who do I give like the super secret spots to? And it's like, trying to spread out kids. And at the end, it's just like this idea of like, you need to be able to locate the safest areas in the room immediately and being able to practice and drill that. But at the same time, there's a space in the room that behind a bookshelf underneath a specific location in the closet that you know is a little bit more secure than others. And it's harder to find. And in a way, it kind of feels like if you get to choose who's going to have a more like chance to survive. And that's unimaginable. That's the struggle of having to do these drills and trying to figure out how not to let it feel that way to children. How children don't really see that. They're wondering like, why are we practicing this? But you're wondering like, wow, I need to create a nook here so that a few of you might have a better chance. That's unimaginable. And how can we trust these politicians like Abbott and Cruz that keep constantly taking money and donations from the NRA, consistently prioritizing their profits over the lives of our children? Because those are my kids too. And they continuously make it easier and easier to access guns. They continually boast about being able to carry without having to train, without needing to have a proper license. How can this situation be unimaginable in the country that in the last 5 months, not even half a year, we've had 212 shootings? How can this be unimaginable when in other countries who have experienced one immediately enact gun control and have seen their mass shootings diminish? In Australia, there was one in 26 years after they enacted proper gun control. Unimaginable? We don't have to imagine it. We can look at other countries and see what actionable steps they've taken. And before anyone attempts to bring up the Second Amendment and regulation, this does not infringe the right to carry. It only makes it harder for those that shouldn't. It makes it more regularized so that people don't have access to deadly semi-automatic weapons that can harm masses. If the NRA can ban weapons to hold their convention where Trump, Cruz, and Abbott will be speaking, one must ask themselves, is it that they don't want to ban guns, or that they get to choose which lives are worth the preventative measures and the protection? If they didn't want to ban guns, why ban it for their own event? It is clear guns need to be regulated, and they can admit it, but why do they get to choose who is granted that safety? Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. And now we will hear from our final teacher, Jack Golub, and then Reverend Liz will close us out. Jack.
Yesterday, I stood right here. I looked out at these desks, and I had to make a decision. I had to decide to tell the truth or to lie. I chose to lie. I told my students they were safe at school. I looked them in the eyes. One of them was sitting right here. He was sitting right here in this seat. And I looked him in the eyes and I told him I would protect him no matter what. And I knew as I said it that I couldn't fully mean it. I knew I couldn't mean it because I didn't know. I didn't know that I would be able to protect him. And I've got right for you here. I've got our emergency plan. I've got what the kids are supposed to do, how we move away from the door, how we hide, like Diana was saying, how we hide against the wall to make it harder for a shooter to see us. I told them that they're safe here. I'm willing to give my life for my students if that is what it takes for them to be safe. But I cannot tolerate living in a society where that is what it takes. I refuse. I refuse to trade the lives of the students you've heard. I refuse to trade the human beings that will come into this classroom for the right of others to obtain and carry guns. In Uvalde, 19 students and 2 teachers died. 19 students and 2 teachers were murdered in their classroom. 19 students and 2 teachers came to a place that they thought was safe, in a state they thought was strong, in a country that they hoped was just. 19 children and 2 adults did what they do every day, and for their dedication, they died. 19 children were born, they ran around and they laughed and they tripped and cried and played with their friends and doodled and got in trouble and hugged their families for 9 years and died. 2 teachers chose to let a demanding education system wring them for everything it could so that those kids could feel loved and comfortable and important in class. And then they died. They went to school and walked into their classroom, a classroom just like this one, and they sat down. They took the chairs off. They took the chairs off the desk and they sat down, and maybe they started eating breakfast. They started talking to each other. And a little while later, a shooter entered the room and shot them with bullets until they died. In a few days or weeks or months, 100 human beings are going to enter the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and they too will have a choice. They will have the opportunity to do what all of us here feel desperate to do: make our country safer. When those 100 senators vote for gun safety and 40 to 50 of them vote against making our country more safe, I will be shocked, but not surprised. The senators who will vote against gun safety are the senators who vote against enacting a living wage, against healthcare, against affordable college, against protecting our land and our water, against a humane immigration policy, against a tax credit for children. If you don't want us to have healthcare and don't want us to make enough money to live a sustainable life and don't want us to be educated or have a planet that can provide for us, then it only makes sense that you don't want us to survive gun violence. There is nothing senseless, and Diana spoke to this, there is nothing senseless about what happened in Uvalde. 10 years ago in Sandy Hook, children and teachers were murdered. Nothing changed. Why should we expect something different to happen? Danger does not go away if we ignore it. Governor Abbott, you have a choice. You can choose to tell the truth that your heart and mind might be in Uvalde, but your wallet is in Houston at the NRA conference. Lieutenant Governor Patrick, you have a choice. You can tell the truth that after the shooting in El Paso, you said we all could agree on common sense gun reforms. And when the time came to create that legislation, you caved to the gun lobby and enacted a law that is even more lenient. Senators Cornyn and Cruz, you have a choice. You can choose to tell the truth that the money and the votes that the NRA and the STRA gives you is worth more than the deaths of your constituents. If you're listening, you also have a choice. You can tell yourself that you are comfortable with the way things are. You can tell yourself, maybe so quietly that you don't even hear it, that the personal inconvenience to you costs more than whatever change you might be able to make. You can tell yourself that the problem is not that you don't care, but that you are too small. If you could vote to save those 19 children and 2 teachers, would you? Would you spend a little bit of time researching online the nearest polling place to save their lives? Would you drive a little bit out of your way, maybe wait 5-10 minutes, maybe 2-3 hours in line to vote to save their lives? Would you go to your state capitol? Would you go to your local city hall? Would you go to Washington, D.C. to hold those leaders accountable for the decision that you have made to save those lives? That vote happened already. We lost. 19 children and 2 teachers are dead, and they are not coming back because we voted to let them die. We voted at the ballot. We voted with our time. We voted with the emails and calls that we didn't make. We voted with the people in our community we didn't talk to. We voted with the lifestyle we chose to maintain. But the vote to save the lives of the next mass shooting is happening right now. It's happening across the country. It's happening here in Texas. In November, it's really happening here in Texas. It happens every cycle. It happens every primary, every position. It happens every day until gun violence is eradicated. Don't lie to yourself and say that you are too small. Don't lie to yourself and say that you don't have what it takes. Don't lie to yourself and say that your inaction is a result of things outside of your control. Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Thank you, Jack. Our teachers, our children, they are hurting. They are in so much pain. And we can't tell them as parents, as educators, when it'll end. We can't tell them that. We are lying to our children to make them feel safe. We are watching our children crumble before our eyes. This is not okay. It is not okay. Telling our children what we know are falsehoods, that this will never happen to you. Your school is safe. It's not okay. As a parent, we struggle with that after these shootings. Teachers struggle with that. The teachers you heard speak today, you saw them in their classrooms. They had to put on their best face mask and show up for the day, show up for our kids. With that in the back of their mind, this is not okay. This is not okay. Reverend Liz, if you could give us some guiding words here.
Thanks, Danita, and thanks to Isabella and Fernando. Thanks to Nanette and Judy and Deanna and Jack and Jessica, and to all the leaders of the Texas Poor People's Campaign and all the teachers and the students throughout Texas and throughout this country. I wish I had more words. I wish I had more comfort, more clarity to bring. But we've heard quite a bit of it just from the folks that have spoken so far, making the connections of the same politicians who are keeping guns in our streets and in our communities, are denying our wages and our votes and health care. We've heard the clarity that there is the possibility that it does not have to be this way, that our politicians, our society could choose, can choose another way. We've heard the clarity that we live with impossible decisions. and they're just not right, and they're not just, and they're not moral. I am a preacher, so I'm used to having a lot of words. I'm a organizer, so I'm used to having a sense of where we should go. I'm a teacher. I'm also a mom of a 10-year-old who's in 4th grade and a 12-year-old who go to schools where 70% of the kids are poor, who go to schools much like in Uvalde, where most of the town money is going into the police and not into the futures of and livelihoods and lives of flourishing. And when people were talking, sharing this truth, I was thinking of a favorite passage from the Bible in Jeremiah 6, where the prophet says, "They dress the wounds of my people as if they are not serious, saying peace, peace, when there is no peace." I think this is exactly the situation we're living in. That passage continues and it says, it asks of the politicians, of the leaders in the community, are they ashamed? Are they ashamed of their detestable conduct? And it replies, no, they have no shame at all. They don't even know how to blush. They go forward with having NRA meetings in a state that just lost the lives of 21 people, humans, God's children. But the hope that then still even continues in that passage, and that is the hope of a moral fusion movement of impacted folk, teachers and students and low-wage workers and moms without health care, continues in Jeremiah. And the message is, but this is what God says: stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for where the good way is and walk in it. And that is indeed what our teachers, what our students, what anybody who's standing up and saying, we have a voice and a vote. We have the power to change things. And although, as Jack reminded us, we did not stop this horrific, violent, death-dealing system that we're living in, we can for the future, and we indeed must. And so just such love, such appreciation. Our hearts are broken. They cannot be fixed, but they can fix themselves on the fact that we have a power. When a third of the electorate, including more than that there in Texas, are people who are impacted by the violence of this society, by the violence of poverty and racism, we have the power to change this entire political landscape, and that we must do. So I am saddened but inspired by the organizing and leadership of our Texas Poor People's Campaign and the broader network, because we who believe in freedom will not rest until it comes. And I know that we will continue to organize and to mobilize and to cry out and refuse to be comforted, because it's just not acceptable. This level of violence, this death-dealing society, this society that would rather allow for kids and for teachers and for so many people to die than to actually do what's right. It just does not get to have the last word. And so we won't let it.
Thank you, Reverend Liz. And now I'll open the floor up to our media that's present. If you have any questions, please come off mute or drop them in the chat.
Are all the teachers from the same school?
The teachers are from Austin Achieve.
All of them. Thank you.
Any other questions from the media? I just want to say thank you all to everyone who I emailed and text at the 9th hour. It's important that we do this. It's important that we do this today. It's important today because tomorrow, Abbott, Cruz, Cornyn, and Paxton opened the convention for the NRA in Houston. It's today that we give them notice that you have an opportunity to take a stand, to step down for your speaking engagements at NRA convention, to stand with our children, our communities. It's also a call out to you to let you know your time is winding down. We are tired. The senseless deaths that have happened on every single one of your watch. We have had five tragic, senseless massacres in Texas. And during that time period, Abbott, Cruz, Cornyn, and Paxton, they were in charge. They were leading us. They were guiding our state. But at the same time, while they were leading us and guiding us, they were damning our children to hell. How can you, in good conscience after this, even think about keeping your speaking engagements? Why? You're not beholden to us. You're beholden to the NRA. They're part of your re-election donorship. You're telling us we don't matter. You're telling us our kids don't matter. Time and time again, you told us that you were going to do and advocate for better gun laws. And you turned around and you slapped us in the face with open carry permits. We see you. We see who you are. Understand that we are tired. As parents, we are at a breaking point. November is around the corner. Your time is winding down. If you won't do anything, by golly, we will. Thank you again to our teachers, our students, our guests, the media. The only thing I can tell you to do when you leave this Zoom is to hug your children, your grandchildren, and keep them close. Because unfortunately, tomorrow is another school day. Thank you all again for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to our students. Thank you for hearing them. Thank you for seeing them for who they are. Vulnerable little people who rely on the wisdom of adults to keep them safe and to protect them. If you take nothing else away from this press conference, take that away. Our children, our grandchildren, our godchildren, they are looking up to us to protect them. And we need to do everything in our power to do so. Thank you all for joining the Texas Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.